the unexpected, the unthinkable. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me. Um, I had this dream on the 3rd of January, 2025. Now, this dream takes place in my hometown. It takes place in Vosloorus, where I grew up, okay, in the East Rand, in Gauteng, okay. I'm in South Africa, by the way. So, before I get in on the dream, you know how we look at the news and we hear about the natural disasters that take place in places like in the West. You know, there are things that take place only in the West that are very, very rare to happen in other countries or in other continents like our continent of Africa. So there are things that are now starting to become a norm. Things like tsunamis, natural disasters that we've normally saw on TV and associated them with the Western world countries. This is the dream. And understand, by the way, the East Range is not in a coastal region. This is just inland, okay? I dreamt that I was in my childhood home, but in the dream I was an adult, okay? And as I was there, the first thing I did was to hear commotion. I was with my daughters in the dream. I heard a commotion. I heard a commotion. I do not know why the dream had to play out in my childhood home and not where I live right now, okay? But I'm just sharing you the dream as it played out. So I was in my home. Yes, just my childhood home where I was, okay? And we first heard a commotion. I was with my girls, and we quickly went out to check what's happening. We saw groups of people as they hurried off. Like our street is one of the busiest streets that leads to the main road, but our street is one of the longest roads and one of the most used roads in our area. Okay, and still is to this day. And so I saw groups of people, but there were no cars. There was just groups of people walking in a hurry, disturbed, troubled. And I knew then something was wrong. And as they were passing, they kept saying, "You need to leave your houses, you need to leave now. You need to leave your houses, you need to leave now." And it came to my mind like, people who are prepared, who have like their safety bags, their rescue bags, their emergency bags ready. They just grab them, grab a bit of food, and then they can leave. But for people like us who are not prepared, it was stress. I remember thinking, like, let me quickly pack. I only had to pack for myself and my little one. Okay. My older daughter could do her own packing. And at that time, there were people who were already coming in to our yard to seek refuge. And they just came in and sat in the house, you know. When something has never happened before, you don't really know what to do. As much as the people were told to leave their houses, to evacuate, no one is telling them where to go. So you're supposed to think, okay, I'm just going to leave this place and go to a place a bit far and rest there. So I feel like this group of people have been coming from other sections, because I was in extension 2. I assume these people are coming from extension 28, 26, extension 14, even extension 25, and they just moved a little bit just to the other regions, other areas, just to check to see if it will be safer there. So they just didn't want to go too far. They don't forget, these people left their homes, they left their houses, and some left with nothing. Some didn't even pack. Okay. And as they left there, I thought there's an opportunity for us to quickly start packing. And as I was packing, I thought that's when I heard a commotion now inside the house. And I went and I asked what was wrong. And they didn't say anything. They just pointed up and I saw holes on the ceiling. Now tell me, if you see a hole in the ceiling, what does it say about the roof? Where is the roof now? Well, how come we seeing a hole on the ceiling? Where is the roof? And I could see the panic on their faces, and they're trying to let me know like it's not safe here. Like, what if the ceiling flies off? Or worse, what if everything gives in, and just falls on top of us? And I realized that packing is not going to work. We just had to leave. Then I understood why some people just walked empty handed, literally, just walked empty handed. They just grabbed what their hands could grab. Because I was still packing, thinking, let me take this, let me take this. I better take this. I'm going to need this. It was a lot. It was a lot, and there was just so much that was happening in my mind. It was so surreal. It was so surreal. I remember thinking like it feels like it's a dream, like it can't be happening. No, it can't be happening. And as we sat there, we heard now it was like some sort of sirens, there was some noise. It was just a lot, some speakers, people speak. It was just a lot of noise happening. And all we did was just to look out to see what was happening. And then we were told, now you have to evacuate immediately. You have to evacuate immediately. You have to evacuate immediately. There was like no more time to pack. You just have to grab your bag, just leave with whatever. So I just grabbed whatever I could grab. We just grabbed whatever we could grab. And as I was busy grabbing, it was then that the power went off. That's it. We had no power, no electricity. And the people began to leave. Now they were going to leave and go keep traveling again, perhaps walk, 40 minutes to an hour, find a place where they'll rest, perhaps a church, a center, a community center, whatever, a hospital or clinic. Because like we all just had to think for ourselves, like, where are we going? Or if a place you could go, like a home. But at this time, like, people were just going wherever they could go. Just like I said, in my house, there were just strangers that were there. So the strangers began to leave, and we also had to leave. And I remember as we walked, I realized that there was literally no car. And like, I'm trying to think, like, where would the car pass? Like, there's so many people on the road. And I feel that the cars are gonna create such traffic that it looked like um things moved better and faster when people were all on foot. It was only when we got to the main road that we started to see many cars. It was then that we would just hike. And then we saw strangers helping strangers. People were very helpful. It's like if someone is passing, they'll just ask, like, where are you going? Which direction are you heading? And some people, when the car just stopped, they just jumped in. That was the kind of situation. But I was touched by how open-hearted people were. But not everybody was aware of exactly what was happening, because people could see that, okay, people are evacuating, but they didn't know that already in this section their houses are damaged. Already in this section there's no power. It was just these strong winds. It was like these strong winds, but it felt like there was heavy rain that was coming. According to me, it felt like there was some heavy rains that's gonna come and just destroy. Either there was a big storm that was coming, or there was just gonna be heavy rains. Either way, it was just gonna be damage and devastation caused. So it was gonna endanger lives, and they wanted us out of there, because when we left, the weather wasn't looking too good. It was a bit dark. It looked like it's in the evening, then it looks like it's in the afternoon. So the weather was not very friendly either. But it wasn't cold. I don't remember freezing, and it definitely wasn't hot either. So I awoke and I thought that it was so interesting, you know, and it hit home because it happened in an area that I knew well. So even as all this was happening, I was able to think and plan, like, okay, I think we can go to this place. I think we can go here. I think we can go there, you know. And it had to happen in a place where, like for all the time I stayed there, we have never had a situation where we were ever told to evacuate. In fact, in my entire life, I don't remember any other time that we were told we had to evacuate for safety in that area since I moved there. Since my brother and I moved in to live with our parents. Okay. So, yeah, this, now that I just told the dream, is like, it's like I relived it, like I remember how I was feeling, like how the anxiety, I knew that God was with us, but the anxiety, and just the feeling of wanting everything to just pass so I can just quickly go back home. So everything can just quickly, you know, be back to normal. Okay. So yeah, this is basically the part of the dream what I wanted to share, because the dream just basically also showed the kindness of people. I remember the kind of people I came across, and also what was happening in different places, because and I remember there were also some shops that were still open and people were still buying because they were not aware. Don't forget that the police and the people were still coming slowly, trying to remove people section by section, area by area. So they started in places where they felt they were most at risk. So these people were not yet aware. They just looked at us and they were shocked, like, what on earth? And all you had to do was to raise an awareness that you don't have a lot of time. You need to quickly pack up and leave, quickly pack up and go home. So those are the very people who actually were offering us transport, and they were really a blessing, and they were really a blessing. Yeah, so I think that's where I would love to end this dream. I've been wanting to share this dream for a while, and I'm just glad that I finally managed to share it. Every time I have to share it, I felt like there were other dreams which I felt were more of an emergency. So I'm just glad that it's finally out. And I think I'd like to share prophetic dreams before I can share the teachings that I would love to share, that the Lord laid in my heart. So, yeah, I hope that you were blessed. Thank you, guys. God bless.